Hi, Zizaran here with another Path of Exile University. So if you have ever been confused about the Atlas mapping or anything like that, then this is the episode for you because I am joined by Karvarousku, one of the more knowledgeable players in the game, who is also one of the last Epoch developers and working on that. So super five head over here. And yeah, he's going to help us talk about the Atlas and maps. And hopefully it'll be less confusing after this episode.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna be more confusing after this. I can
Okay.
guarantee that. Yeah,
So how are you
always like
doing?
that.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. Pretty excited of the new league.
Yeah? Looking
And to
forward to
get to
Heist?
confuse some pupils on Atlas again. It's
So I
always
guess
amazing.
I guess you prefer more in-depth mechanics then.
Yeah, I'd say so.
That seems fair. So a lot of people struggle with the Atlas and knowing what to do and how to approach it, how to complete it as fast as possible. And I think you wanted to screen share as well, right? So we can switch over to that. Give
Yeah,
me
the screenshot is mainly so I can, if I'm going anything on Atlas or anything like that, I can show the map tiers and everything properly.
Yeah.
It's really hard to keep up otherwise.
Let's see. There. I'll put your cam in a separate box. Actually, that'll look better. But yeah, they can currently see your atlas and screen. So, where a lot of people are a little bit worried. Like, does it matter a lot where we start?
In terms of like which region, no, not really.
Well,
Do kind of whatever.
a lot of
It really
racers,
depends.
a lot of racers seem to be starting in certain regions sometimes, right?
I'll just pick up the best map from the guy at the start, and I usually do that.
So when you say best map, what do you mean?
Map with an easy boss, good layout, and usually good density. For example, right now, Glacier and Tropical are really good. Like if you do Desert, you usually end up losing a lot of monsters because you don't clear it properly. I
Right.
always lose it's always 50 remaining on Desert when I kill the boss every time.
Yeah, it's hard to clear everything. So when it doesn't matter what region we start in, what does matter early on? What do you look for and plan out early on?
I'd say I guess the most important thing about mapping in general is to always make sure that whenever you kill the map boss, so that the unique guy at the end of the map, that it can drop a +2 map. So that's why you really want to rush into complete a T3 as soon as possible. So whenever you're running T1 maps, you can get a T3. And when you're running T3s, you should make it so that you can get a T5. So that's why you really want to rush to any of the corners, because that's where the first Conqueror, the Baron, spawns. And you want to do it as soon as possible, so you get your first watchstone, so that you can then insert it usually in the middle, and that way you can get all the way to up. Let's say here we get all to T7, so you can do T5 maps and still be able to get a +2.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's the most important thing.
So for those of you who aren't 100% sure on how that works, normally monsters, blues, rares, exiles, whatever, they can never drop +2 maps. That's only droppable from the boss itself of the map, and only if you have a map 2 tiers higher unlocked. And like Karv said about rushing for tier 3 maps, there's the second reason to do that, because the first tier 3 map that you complete every league is where you're going to discover Zana. So that's very important, and it's completely deterministic.
Yep, and that's the point when you start getting Zana missions. You can't get a single Zana mission until you discover Zana, and that's when you do your first T3 map.
Yeah.
It's also when you get your watchtowers. So whenever you complete a tier 3 or higher map in any region that you don't have a watchtower yet, don't immediately leave the map or rush to the other side. Just wait, because the Zana will appear and give you the watchtower.
Yeah. So you can very, very quickly get all your citadels. And then what about getting the watchstones? How do we spawn the conquerors, and where do we go to find those?
Okay, so when you originally start the game, so mapping system, so you're in the epilogue, I'm sadly in Karvarousku Shores now, so I can't show it. But you get a actual quest that tells you to find. I don't remember exactly which. I think it's. I don't remember which is the name of the quest, but it tells you to explore the Atlas, and then once you found Zana, then Zana tells you to go into any of the corner, and that's where the Baron will go, will be. And after you've killed the Baron the first time, then the other 3 can spawn also in the corners.
Yeah.
So you have to do a Conqueror in each of the corner once before they can spawn anywhere else.
Yeah.
And Baron is always the first.
Yeah, and you have to finish killing Baron before a second Conqueror can spawn. This is important especially for people who want to chase Redeemer to get, for example, the Veritania Spectres. Even though they did get nerfed in the Manifesto, still could be a very good Spectre.
Yep.
What about on the second set of Conquerors? Is there any rules there?
Okay, there's a lot of... I'd say there's a decent amount of debate on what you should do for that. But personally, my recommendation, especially for people who aren't racing or don't have a super specific plan around one map, I'd say always just do them in the middle. And that is simply because it's easier to spawn and you will have an easier fight. So if we compare the map tiers here, so with one watchstone, so when you have done the first conquerors, if you hover over here, it tells you, it says for me obtained all of the watchstones. It says not obtained, and it then tells you how many watchstones you need to socket to spawn it. And then you need to run a map of that tier. So I would have to run a tier 4 glacier or higher to be able to spawn the influence. So I can't put a watchstone and then run a T1 glacier. It won't spawn it. But let's say that we spawn the Baron there now. We are more likely to get a tier 4 or tier 5, maybe a T6 Baron fight, but it is very unlikely.
So what chooses
that we have to fight a T7?
What chooses
compared
the
to
level?
the other corner? The level is based on the watchstones, and then the Conqueror fight is it just picks a random map that is available, what is completed. So, for example, if the only map that I'd had ever completed in Lex Proxima was a glacier, the Conqueror would spawn there, because there's no other maps it can spawn on.
So, say that I'm doing, for example, farming for influence bases at a higher level. Is there any way for me to force Crusader to be to tier 16?
Yeah, by not having any other map completed in the region. So I guess we can take an example on Valdo's Rest. So there's only...
Tire.
Yeah, there's only 2 T16s here. So the only way would be to never, ever, ever complete any of these other maps that aren't highlighted, which does pose a problem on getting your first watchtower, because these maps don't spawn without watchstones. But that way, if these are the only 2 maps that I've completed, then simply the Baron will always spawn here, or the Conqueror.
Is there any regions where that is easier?
To get T16s only?
Yeah.
Yeah, the corners.
Right.
So I actually have a map list, but we don't need to look at it right now. But all of the corners have generally higher tier maps. So
but you could just Horizon in anyway, right?
Yeah, you can do that. But Horizon only gives you a tier 16 that is naturally 16. So, for example, if you look at these 2 now, the Overgrown Shrine and Promenade, the Promenade isn't shown here. It's not available to me yet, because I only have 3 watchstones, but Overgrown Shrine is. So Overgrown Shrine is I believe it's a natural T13. I don't think it shows before. Yep. So if I Horizon any tier 13 map, it could be an Overgrown Shrine. It can't be a Scriptorium, and it can't be the Promenade, because we don't have that. And then for the T16s, I mean, a lot of people call it Orb of Promenade for a reason, because everyone uses it for Promenade.
And that is a little bit more complicated, but I know a lot of people asked if there was any way where we could control the Hunter and Crusader and their levels, and there is, but yeah, it is annoying. And this is a pretty big downside to the Atlas right now. because when grinding gears changed, the fact that we could remove, like, we used to be able to remove maps from the atlas, they now said that, oh, there's no reason for you to remove maps anymore, so now you can't. Well, obviously that's not true. There's loads of advantages to being able to remove maps or to never have done them. And I think, I don't know how Karv feels about this, but at least I would say that the bad thing here is that it should never be a permanent damaging choice. You should always be able to undo it.
My biggest issue with that is simply that I can't make my favorite map into a T16.
Yeah. Yep. It's true. At least they have made it a lot better now. Like, there's not as much reason to remove and optimize your Atlas as before. And you see, like, sometimes racers will do this very early to farm specific divination cards and stuff. But you don't have to feel as bad for completing your entire Atlas as you did before. So, for the most part, it's still fine.
Yep. Can I go back to the reason why I recommend people to actually do the I mean, of course I can. I'm going to now. So the reason why I recommend doing the second set, even the third and maybe the fourth set of conquerors after the first corner maps in the middle is because of the tier of the maps. So it's much easier to get T4 maps than it is to get T6 maps, which is the lowest map in the corner. So it's just so much faster to spawn them in the middle. That's not necessarily always the best case scenario, but that's definitely the recommendation. I think most people should always do that.
Yeah. And even if you're in hardcore and stuff, you'll get easier bosses to fight too.
Yep.
And you'll notice, like, especially like the first set of bosses you fight, they're incredibly easy. And once you start getting into ones that need 3 watchstones, they will be pretty dangerous, especially Baran.
Yeah, Baran auto attack hits a lot.
So what about, like, a lot of people feel like they're taking a lot of time to explore the Atlas, and there is one trick we can show people on how to make that faster. Do you want to explore and talk about 3-to-1ing maps?
Yeah, sure. Actually, somehow have some maps ready here as well. So how 3-to-1 works? So when you trade 3 maps, 3 of the same map, it gives you a 1 map tier higher of that same region. So if I were to vendor 3 tier 1 glaciers, it could give me any of the T2 maps. It could give me Jungle Valley, it could give me Fields, Underground Sea, Mausoleum, Haunted Mansion, Ashen Wood, or Coral Ruins. So the more maps you have, the more chances you'll have. So I don't think if I have any low tier maps right now to show that, because I wanted to showcase the other option. I don't think I have, but yeah. So the more maps you have, the more chances you'll have to, like, get the map that you want. Because with 4 glaciers, you have like 4 different sets. You can do like map 1, 2, 3. You could do 1, 2, 4, etc. So it keeps, like, by changing the maps in the trade window, it can give you a different map. So that's the basics. So it always gives a map of the same region. Is probably one of the most important things. So you can,
and they don't need to be linked together.
Yeah. So I can get the Haunted Mansion, even though it doesn't have any connection to the glacier map.
Do you want to show people?
Yeah, I have an example of the other stuff, and I kind of want to explain it first.
Okay.
So then, when we start getting higher tier maps, so let's say we have the desert map now tier 4, and we have a bunch of desert maps, and now if you look how many tier 5s we have, so we have 4 different tier 5s here. So I should pick at any of these, right? Just switching around the maps in the trade window. But regardless what I do, I only ever get marshes. No matter what combination I put, it's always marshes. And that is because of the thing we talked about earlier about the natural maps. So the marshes actually only ever shows up first when you have 1 watchstone. So that's a very good way of targeting specific maps that you don't actually get early. And then in the case where there are no natural maps, so let's look at like T6 Plaza here. So there is no a natural T7 map in here. All lava chamber, shore, and orchard do show up even without a watchstone. So in those cases, it can simply give you any of those. So it's important to know if that's like the natural, if there's a +1 natural map of the tier that you want. And that's actually the way you can obtain a watchtower here without ever needing to complete the map that you don't want to. So for example, in the Gauntlet race, I wanted to farm Chevron's wrappings. I really needed Chevron's wrappings for my build. And there's a map that you can farm from, which is a Scriptorium. And I only wanted to get Scriptorium in my Atlas. Well, I did also get Tropical. But so Scriptorium is a natural T5. It doesn't spawn before that. It's not here. So what I did, there's a few different options. What I did is I actually upgraded just from random map drops that I got from adjacents. So I was running like other maps and they dropped like a T3 Mesas, etc. I 3-to-1 them, and because there's only one tier 4 in the region with one watchstone, it always gave me a tropical island, regardless of what 3 I combined. And then I combined 3 tropical into a scriptorium, then I completed it, and because it's a higher than a tier 3 map, it actually gave me the watchtower, even though I didn't actually see my Atlas at all.
Yeah.
And so you can do a lot of cool stuff with the 3-to-1 recipe.
Yeah, and part of the important thing, even if you don't fully understand how it works, this actually like provides a lot of value to picking up lower tier maps for completing your Atlas. A lot of people are like rushing fairly quickly to high tier maps. But then even if you're if you're clearing tier 9 or tier 10 maps, it can still be worth picking up tier 2s, 3s, etc. because that's how you can very easily fill out your own Atlas by without trading, right? You can just like sell 3, and if you have like let's say you have 7 of that map, then a lot of the time you'll be able to like fill out the maps 1 tier above.
Yeah, like let's do an example. Let's say that we are missing underground, like tier 2 underground C, and we just can't get it to drop. And we have progressed our Atlas. Let's say that we have 3 watchstones. What we can do to increase the chance of getting that is, of course, we can try to buy it from Zana. We should probably talk about Zana soon.
Mm-hmm.
But we can exclude, like we can lower the tier 2 map pool or even the tier 1 map pool here by increasing the level of the maps. So now Lookout, Desert, and Tropical Island, which normally were tier 1 maps, they simply don't drop as a tier 1 anymore, barring some
prophecies,
except expectation, except there's a lot of cases where it can still happen from other league mechanics. But yeah, now as from like a normal mapping, you don't find T1 of these 3 maps, and you just find a lot of glaciers. So now you can build a map, like a big map pool of glaciers, then to 3-to-1 into the underground sea. You'll eventually have enough maps that you will be able to get it.
Yeah. And the way the 3-to-1 recipe is tied, like even if you're like, it'll change the item ID basically if you horizon them. But even if you're using, Scours, Alks, Chaos, that doesn't change anything with the map. Like 3 specific maps are always gonna sell. For example, like 3 of those glaciers would sell for 1 underground sea. And that's why when you have like more, like 4 or 5, you have so many more combinations that you can experiment with.
Yep, that's why just switching around the maps. The first 3 give us shore, then we switch the last map, that's still shore, we switched again, now it's an orchard, again shore, lava chamber. So just by having a lot of maps allows you to check as like all the options you have. Like I can guarantee all of the 3 from this.
Yeah.
Very easily.
So it's very, very strong for completing Atlas early. And then we can move on to talk about Zana, and also holding down Alt on maps is something people might have actually missed. But if you hold down Alt on a map, you can see that you have Atlas map complete, bonus objecting, and a Awakening objective. So if you open Zana's vendor screen, she will be selling you a bunch of maps, and you could hold Alt down while looking over all of these.
Yep, that's easy way to check if you need to just straight up buy it from Zana.
And
Obviously, I have everything completed.
What about the pool of maps that she's selling? How do we reset this?
So there are few cases, but the one that you will see the most is by simply opening a Zana mission map. So when you have the map device, you can just pick a Zana mission, and we open a map. And now it changes map. So let's look at these three maps. We have a Crimson Temple, Estuary, and Promenade. We can just put another one, and that's gonna be changed now.
Yeah. So you don't even need to run the map. It's important to remember here. And
Yep.
the tiers and levels of maps that she's selling you is based on the amount of watchstones you have. So even if you're doing white Zana missions later on, when you have 32 watchstones, that has the chance to like give you, you know, cortex and stuff like that.
There's actually something that I've yet to like properly test. I think it also has something. It might also have something to do with the completion and not just pure watchstones. That's actually easy to test by just getting all the watchstones with a very low completion.
Right,
But
makes sense.
That's
Pretty
something
sure.
I need to test.
But yeah,
But
we should test that. So another thing to worth talking about here is actually the Zana mission inside the map. So, for example, if you now went inside the plaza and found Zana, she's going to be selling you multiple, or not selling you, but she's going to give you the choice of opening multiple maps. Now, a lot of players might just go for the maps that have, like, for example, like a map you haven't completed yet. But if you look at the bottom, you can see that there are several missions here. Sometimes that will say complete the lab trial. And this is actually a really, really important part that a lot of racers or speedrunners use. Like, for example, that's how I got all my Uber Lab trials and did Uber Lab. Like, I think it was like 11 or 13 hours into into Harvest. So combine that with running a lot of low tier maps, and you will actually find all your trials very quickly. You still could get like a bunch of duplicates, but it helps like give you a little bit more RNG there.
yep, and it's also just really good way of also getting maps that you haven't done yet, because she just gives you a bunch of maps up to like believe it's up to +2 of the tier you're doing, but usually it's like the same tier or +1 higher.
Yeah, and you can get a bunch of unique maps from her as well.
Yep, and there's also a map that you can only get from her, and that's Untainted Paradise. It doesn't give you completion, but it's a really good map in general.
A lot of XP. It's really, really worth doing. And obviously, like things like getting a Maokan and stuff like that eventually is really, really nice for additional currency.
Oh yeah, and you can also hold Alt here as well, and it will show if it's completed as well.
And sadly, you can no longer get a Zana inside a Zana anymore.
Yep. And now that we've actually talked about those pesky objectives completed, like what are they actually? So in the middle, at the beginning there's only one number first. So we have the completed bonus objectives, which simply increases the tier the map can drop. Now, the most important part about this is that it doesn't actually allow like a white monster to drop a map that is higher than the tier of the map they're doing. So if you're like running a tier 4 tropical island, the white monsters that you kill there, even if you had over 100%, will only still be able to drop tier 4 maps. But it means that every single tier 3 map will be upgraded to tier 4.
Yeah, so for example, like the way the game would choose, like, does a map drop? And if the answer is yes, like in a tropical, a tier 1 map could still drop, but then that, instead of like dropping as a tier 1 map, would drop as a tier 2.
Yeah, and there's a system that we don't actually even understand fully yet on there. So when you have an entire atlas with full watchstones, so that your lowest tier map is tier 14, then every map that would have dropped, like tier 1 to tier 13, but it actually doesn't, you don't find it because it doesn't exist in your atlas anymore, that is added as some hidden bonus for like more maps to drop later. We don't fully understand how it works, but it is very noticeable if you play with all watchstones, like have every single watchstone, so get it in your atlas. and then if you remove one watchstone from somewhere, so that now you will suddenly be finding like, if you have like 3 watchstone here, and everywhere else you have 4, but now we are able to drop the 10s, 11s, 12s, and 13s. It does a very big difference on the how amount of the 14, 15, and 16s we suddenly now get.
Yeah.
So
And like if you do pay attention to the Valdo's Rest region that Karv just paid in now, like there are a lot of like specific things you can do with manipulating the tiers in other regions. Like if you see now in Valdo's Rest, Tropical Island is the only tier 10. So every time a tier 10 map drops now, it's going to be a Tropical Island. And you can like you can notice like me, Steelmate, and a lot of other streamers will do this, especially for pushing the ladder, with putting 4 watchstones in Turn's End and having that as the only region with 4 watchstones. Now the only tier 16 that can drop is Toxic Sewers, which is really, really nice for pushing experience and levels. So it's not always the best to just go for like high awakening level and things like that, which we can talk about a bit later. Sometimes you want to farm either specific divination cards, and I mean they usually scramble the atlas a little bit per league, so I guess we are expecting some atlas changes.
I think already confirmed. It was a sneaky mention in one of the Harvest stat forum posts that they are doing a Atlas reshuffle.
Right. Yeah, they usually do that always now, and sometimes that can be good for your plans. Sometimes it can be bad. Like an example of how this can change someone's plans is that Residence sometimes is a very low level map, and then it's insane for farming an early 6th link. Right now, Residence is I think tier 15 naturally. And that makes it a lot harder for people because sometimes you might be playing a build that needs an early 6th link. If Residence is a tier 3 map, you can very easily farm like an actual rare craftable 6th link in like 1 or 2 hours. Whereas if it's a tier 15, well, you gotta get it another way.
I don't remember where Residence is, however I wanted to show it. I don't remember the region. But yeah, it used to be a really low, like a medium tier map. A few patches ago, it was a really easy way to get a 16.
Let's see. It is... Oh, it's a tier 14. It's Valdo's Rest. So same as Promenade. It's 4. And the reason why I pointed out Residence in particular is because it's probably the best, one of the best divination cards. And I feel like the rest of the entire system should be put more in line with Dapper Prodigy. But it's an incredibly easy to farm 6-link divination card. And yeah, I feel like that's like how the entire purpose of the div card system should be. It's just very, very farmable. Same with, for example, the offering for Chevron's wrappings and the King's Heart for the Comb's Heart divination card. They're also like very, very farmable divination cards. The offering dropping off any Chevron boss, and King's Heart dropping off any like volcano or lava layout. Well, most of them.
Yeah, and there's sadly the system that helps you farm the maps that you want without doing the gimmicks of not completing maps kicks in pretty late, and that's the map favorite system. So here you see the slots here, so I can pick a map. Like normally when you don't have the available, it doesn't have like this black slot, but you can click there, and now whenever a tier 4 map was about to drop, I have a much higher chance of getting a Dark Forest. But it takes a while before you can actually start using these, because the first one becomes available to you when you have completed the bonus objective of each map in that region, except unique maps don't count, gladly. And so that means that you have to have access to very high tier maps, because every single region has
I thought
least one high tier map.
Isn't the first one just completing every map without bonus? Second one is bonus. Third one is awakening objective.
Give me a second.
I'm gonna load on standard and check. I'm pretty sure.
I don't actually remember, but either way, you have to have access to high tier maps regardless, because you need a T14, and in a lot of cases T15 and 16. So regardless, it takes a lot.
Yeah, that's it. Now, there is a problem with that as well. So obviously, part of the reason why a lot of players were very, very upset that we can no longer remove maps from the atlas was because we would shape our atlases in a certain way so that we could farm divination cards better and things like that. But they've added, the favorite map system, and they were like, "Oh, this is gonna be fine. You guys are gonna be able to target farm what you want." Well, obviously that's not the case because it does take a long time for this to kick in, which is sad.
Yeah. When you do have a fully completed atlas though, which I know a lot of people don't ever really get to, it makes it a lot easier. And when you do the thing that Tazis mentioned earlier about having some regions not fully watchstoned, like for example, let's say that I want to farm a tier 14 city square. If I had all watchstones in all of my regions, I would have like 60 or 70 tier 14 maps that could drop. But if I remove a watchstone, even just removing one watchstone out of the middle sections, I can cut that in like half, and it makes it much easier to.
Do you want to talk a little bit about exactly what the favorite map system does?
Yeah, so I guess I have to first explain how the map drops generally work. So when a map drops, the game checks for all maps on that tier, or like the tier that map drops is determined. So let's say that it decides to drop a tier 3 map. Now it checks every single map that is available for tier 3, and if let's say there's 5 maps that can drop. Let's say that we have everything completed and we have 5 tier 3 maps. Each of them has 1 in 5 chance to drop, right? Because there's 5 and each of them has equal chance. And then if we then were to favorite, let's say we favorite the sunken city 3 times. So each favorite, where's actually the region for that there? Each time you favorite it, it multiplies the chance by 10. So now, instead of each map having a 1 in 5 chance, we added extra 10. Like, think about it as a like you're picking a number out of a hat or something like that. So each of the map has 1 option, and now with the favorite system, you just added 10 extra to the sunken city. So you have a much higher chance to be able to get it. So now you have 11 out of 15 of the chances are sunken city, and then all of the rest will have 1 out of 15. And then the more you add, so if we put all the 3 on it, now it's like 31, 35, and then every other map has 1 in 35 chance.
Yeah.
So you can vastly increase the chance of getting the maps that way.
And as a quick example, with the earlier Toxic Zero example of that being the only tier 16, if we put 3 favorites on the Toxic Zero, that wouldn't do anything. That's already the only map that can drop there, and it doesn't give us a higher chance for maps to drop. Same with the Atlas bonus itself. If you have 154 or 0, you're still dropping the exact amount of maps. It's like the exact amount of like pure map drops. It's just with the 154, there'll be higher tiers.
Yeah, the average tier of the maps that drop will be higher with the bonus. And with the favorite system, it's just the average distribution of the maps that drop in that tier are going to be favored for the map that you wanted it to be. And then you can simply, if you just right click here, it takes it away.
Yeah. We could talk about the awakening bonus too.
Yeah, I was just about to say there's another bonus we should probably talk about. And that is, there's also awakening level, but then there's also the awakening bonus objectives. And that is, if you look at this here, we have the bonus with the check mark, and then we have the awakening bonus under it. So the bonus for the spider lair is a corrupted rare map, and it's a corrupted rare map because the first time you see this map is because it's a red map. So every red map for getting the bonus has to be a corrupted rare. Every yellow, like natural map. So, for example, if we go back to these maps, these all, it's fine if it's just a magic map. And then what is the first?
And
There's a precinct that is a rare, so it has this for yellows. It has to be just a rare map, and then for the reds, it has to be corrupted rare. And then under
remember,
that, awakening bonus, and that is simply just completing the map at the tier that is mentioned. So here it says tier 14 or higher. So if I get a Zana mission that gives me a tier 15 or 16 spoiler, that would also work. But the important part is to have enough watchstones to get the awakening level that is required for that.
and also remember that the bonus doesn't have anything to do with the map being droppable. So you could complete like a tier 16 map white, and that will make it droppable.
Yep, just a killing the map boss in any of the map will make it so that it can start dropping.
But what about the lines between the maps, Karv?
Oh, these little dotted lines.
Yeah, the ant lines.
Yeah. So, wait, sorry. Can you repeat? I missed that.
I call them ant lines. They look like ants.
Oh, okay. So yeah, these little dotted, I guess, ant lines, they are a very important mechanic when it comes to obtaining maps that are next to your maps. So this is the adjacency. So shore is adjacent to orchard because it has the lines connecting it to it. So there's two important things in here, and the first one is whenever you kill the map boss. So in shore you have the Fairgraves in there. They have I think the baseline chance for a adjacent map to drop is like 1 in 3, so like 33%. So if you can like boss rush, just literally open shores, go kill the boss, and every time you kill the boss, there's like a 33% chance that it will drop one adjacent map, assuming the map can drop. So for example, if you're running the Basilica round, the tier 5 Basilica, it cannot drop T15 shore or T16 park because they're way too high level. So in that case, it would have to always only drop courtyard. And you can increase this chance by the awakening level. And the awakening level, which we haven't talked about yet much, is depends on how many watchstones you have socketed. So right now I have awakening level 4 because I have anywhere between 16 and 19 maps. So the awakening level is simply the amount of watchstones socketed in your atlas divided by 4.
And they no longer need to be socketed into the same region. So you don't need like...
Yes, you can have one watchstone in 4 different regions, and you will have awakening level 1. And the awakening level is a very important thing for a lot of things, actually. So if you see, I don't know how well you can actually see through the scissor stream what it says, but it has a unique boss has 3% more life. So by increasing the awakening level, the map boss gets more life. Then there is a +1 chance for an additional connected map to drop from unique map boss. So that line there is exactly the thing that I was talking about here earlier. So by increasing your awakening level, you increase the chance of that. I call it the boss bonus drop, personally, to drop. So by increasing this, you can get an extra 8% chance. So that's like you go from 33% to like 41%. So out of 100 maps that you run, 41 of them gets an extra additional map that is connected to the map that you were running, which is very, very important for map sustain, especially early on. And then there's a bunch of other bonuses. For example, chance for Shaper and Elder Guardian and Atlas base type item to drop. And these all go up when you increase the watchstone or the awaken level. And there's the extra unique drop, which can give you a headhunter. I think Cute Dog has actually found a headhunter on stream from that.
And they drop identified.
Yeah, they always drop identified, yeah. So increasing this is very, very, very useful.
Yeah. And then what about things like rolling your maps? Like, do you always go for the bonus? Do you instantly slam in 4 watchstones in one region? Like, how would you approach developing your atlas at the start of the league, and what do you do with your watchstones, as well as rolling the maps?
So personally, if I have alks available and I have a build that can run most map mods, so if I don't have to care about reflect or stuff like that, I will just always alk my map immediately. But you don't need to do that, and it's not necessary at all. So for white maps, I'd always recommend to at least transmute and probably augment an alteration if it's like really bad mods. And you want to make sure that I'd say at least once you start getting the yellow maps, to start alking them for sure, because you increase the pack size and the quantity of items that drop like drastically by increasing the mods in the map. But there's a lot of different opinions on at what point you should start alking. I personally alk immediately if I can.
And that like switches a little bit on Trade League versus SSF as well. Some leagues, SSF might struggle a lot with alchemies, and even if you're converting all your regrets into alks, you might end up struggling a little bit. Whereas on Trade League, I would say it's pretty much always worth to alch your maps instantly, because regardless if you're actually getting pure alchemies back, you're going to be getting like different currencies that you can trade with other people, and you'll be getting more unique items and things. So generally on Trade League, I would also always alchemy. SSF, it can be a little bit different depending on the leagues. Can't remember specifically what league, but I remember there was one fairly recently where alchemies were like hell.
I've had a lot of trouble sustaining my alks in my practice runs, but in normal gameplay, I don't really have problems with that. Especially if you do some side content like Delve. Delve gives you a lot of alchemies from the fracture vaults, but
yeah,
probably don't need to go in there now.
So let's say that you've just started on your atlas now, and you get a watchstone. What do you do with your first one, and do you then move it around, or do you slam 4 watchstones?
Oh. Here's my harvest run. So I started.
Nice.
This is like from start of the league. I actually have a screenshot for my entire other progression here. This is not
awesome.
This is not what I would recommend doing for a lot of people. But yeah, so my plan here is to literally just run any map, and actually you can see that the fields, it doesn't have this. I don't know how easy this is to see.
Doesn't have the circle.
Yeah, it doesn't have this like brownish circle. So that means that it doesn't have the Atlas bonus completed. So I just run a not magic field for some reason. Don't ask why. So I didn't get the bonus. So you should make sure that you do it.
Maybe it was from Zana. Oh no, it couldn't have been. It's too early. Yeah, that's just weird. Why'd you do that?
I don't know. I was in a rush. I just slapped maps in. So yeah. So this is just. Oh yeah. So this is the first time before you have Zana. Kirak actually sells maps for you, and they're all T1. I recommend buying all of these. They cost like a chance orb and like a wisdom skull, something like that. You can like from here alone, we can make a T2 map with a few more lookouts. We could maybe even get a. If we get really lucky, we could get a T3 if they give the same map. But yeah, basically buy all the maps from Kirak immediately, and see, there's my. I completed temple. I got my first watchtower, and it says not obtained on all of the watchstones, and it says Conqueror cannot spawn, and that is simply because I haven't encountered a Conqueror yet. But now we have Zana, and from Zana I bought Academy, and I immediately run it, and you can see the red hue here. That's because the Baron spawned there. Now we need to run an extra 2 maps, and then we can fight Baron. There's another map, and Baron is dead, and now we got the first watchstone, and I just immediately slam it into one of the middle regions. And in my case, it had to go in turn's end because I didn't have any of the other watchtowers, and now it increases the tiers. And as you see here, it still says Conqueror cannot spawn for the Hunter, Redeemer, and Warlord, because I haven't done the initial fights yet. But Baron can spawn, and it says that it requires 1 watchstone. So if I get any map that is the correct tier here. So let's tier 4 lookouts or any other map that is above tier 4, we can spawn the influence. So I guess good note is Zana missions. So when you get a mission in a map and Zana gives you a map, those maps don't progress the conquerors at all. It has to be a map that you place into the map device. And there we have the Baron actually spawned. So you don't need to kill any of the other 3 guys. And you, like, I could go all the way. Well, actually, I can't do more than at 1 watchstone Baron, because you can't get 2 red watchstones into the same citadel. So after this spawn, I would have to kill one of the other 3, in order to be able to spawn the 2 watchstone Baron. But like I said, you don't need to do this. You can just do all of the 3, like all of the 4 before you start thinking about this. But this way, now I can drop up to a tier 6 map. So let's say that we have a tier 4 map here. We got a tier 4 map from Zana, like from Zana shop, and we could run that, and we could find any of the maps here, and we could then progress the higher tier Baron as well at the same time. So that's very useful. Let me go further a bit. I actually ended up getting all of the maps to spawn the second Baron before. You can see I haven't even opened any of the other citadels yet.
Wow. Interesting.
That's not what I would generally recommend doing. It just happened to happen like that for me on that run. And yeah, here I'm just like trying to get all the other spawns. So there we had a drog spawn there, and then killed it immediately.
So normally you would just do all the regions, right, as well?
Yeah. This just happened to happen. I didn't get the maps for the other spawn, so I was like, oh, let's just keep doing it. So you don't need to like slow down in the watchstone, like killing the conquerors, just because you didn't get the others.
And you can see that Karv now has 1 Zana daily that's white, and 2 that's yellow, and 0 that's red. And every day at 1 a.m. UK time, and you can see when this reset time is, for example, by going to poelab.com. It'll say lab resets in X hours if you're in a different time zone and you can't remember what time it resets for you. And that's actually based on the maps you've completed recently. So you can force this to give you red maps, for example, right before a reset. Is it the last 3 or the last 5 maps you've done?
I think it actually might just be the last map. I don't remember exactly. I'm pretty sure it's the last map.
Just the last one. Okay. So yeah, so that means that let's say that you aren't like regularly mapping or red maps. Say that you're mostly clearing like tier 10s and 9s, 8s, whatever, and you're like XPing those, but you really want more red missions for later, right? That's just generally better, and it'll give you a free tier 16 later, basically. What you could do is then the last map you do before the reset is a red map, and then you wait for the tick to happen where it gives you 1 of each daily, and then boom, you can go back to doing yellows again, but you do get 1 red mission then.
Yep, that's very useful.
You took so many screenshots. This is awesome.
This is screenshots of every completed map, unless I missed them. Yeah, here we have. I'm actually spawned this is a 2 watchstone drogs now, if I remember correctly. Actually, it might not be. I think no, it is, because there's 2 watchstones. But this is a thing that I should have mentioned earlier. You can actually spawn a lower tier, like lower watchstone conqueror, the influence, without while having more watchstones. So I could actually have 4 watchstones socketed here, and I could run any map as long as it's at least the correct level for the watchstones that it had. So I guess I can show this in game right now. So let's say that we spawned the 2 watchstone drops. So I can actually have all of the watchstones here, and I can still run T8 lookouts if I have them. So let's say that I just run a bunch of maps and I have the lookout saved. I can actually put a 3rd watchstone in already, and I can open the tier 8 lookout. It will progress the conqueror, and now that we're killing the map boss, because the unique map boss can drop a +2, we can find a T10 lookout, which then could allow me to start the 3 watchstone progress on another conqueror.
And it'll actually say in your map device if it's like compatible to like progress the either the the conqueror missions and stuff like that. Like the map device does tell you now and give you information on that.
Yep, and usually it's correct.
Yeah. And then early on, like it's kind of hard for us to show right now because I don't think we're in a private league or anything that we can show. But normally on the left side, you'll have like a progress meter for the conquerors spawning. Oh yeah, there's the progress meter. So early on, it's going to look like that, where basically each map is going to have a bunch of monsters, and it's very very early and easy and fast to progress it. Whereas later on, these are going to be longer and also like be slightly like there's going to be a variable. And that starts as soon as you have 16 watchstones going towards your 20. Rip.
Rip all. Or with someone else.
R2
okay,
loves
I'm trying. Oh yeah, and here's an example. Here's a good example. So, do you see there's a different color? So the yellow indicates that it's completed. So the next map I complete here will then spawn the Drox fight, which is a free map. Free extra white map, by the way, which is very useful, and we probably should talk about it at some point. And then on here we see it has the blue color, or like cyan color. So if you hover over to this in game, when you have this, it actually tells you that it has like 30 extra packs of like hunter influence monsters, and in here I don't have them. And the reason for that is I was sneaky. So here you can see I have one left. So one map here, and we will spawn the Drox. And then here, now suddenly I'm back into one with the same amount of watchstones. So I actually just run the map that the Conqueror map without killing the Conqueror at all, and then I just continue running more maps here. So I use that as a way to get a free, like a higher tier map, in hopes of then getting another higher tier map in another region to progress.
And
so,
do you feel like that's always worth it? Because then you're not getting the influence items, and you're not getting like those extra packs of monsters.
It is definitely worth it in a lot of cases. For example, if we go back to the gauntlet, so I was farming the Chevron wrappings. So I had a Tropical Island and Scriptorium as the only 2 maps. Literally none of these other maps were completed during the gauntlet race for me for the longest time. So every 3 maps that I run, so you could actually run the other maps as well, as long as you just didn't kill the map boss. Yeah, so you could, like, I just cleared like half of the map, or hold the map. It doesn't really matter. As long as you don't complete the map by killing the map boss. I only had these 2 maps completed, and then every 3 maps that I run in this region, I got the Conqueror spawn, which is a free map. And as we mentioned earlier, at the beginning of the class, it will only give you a map that is completed. So it was either Tropical Island or Scriptorium. So if I really wanted to go ham, I shouldn't have actually completed Tropical Island either, because the only map completed at that point would have been Scriptorium. So that way you can get that one map that you really want. And that's what we used to do for the residents as well. Last league, the league before, I don't remember exactly.
Yeah. So the best approach to this would then be to Horizon into Scriptorium, or buying it off Zana.
Or doing the 3-1 of T3s into T4 into T5 like I did.
Yeah.
There's a multiple different ways to do it. Yeah. Oh yeah, and back, I guess about the horizons. We talk about it, right? So the horizon only gives you a map that is a native. We did talk about that. So it's very important for you guys to know what map is a natural in its own tier, so you can use the horizon. I guess one of the best examples right now would be tier 13.
It's actually very easy to see through the map tab when you don't have every map in it.
The stuff is here changed, so I don't actually know where that map tab is right now, but it's somewhere, unless this is bugged. I'm not sure. I can actually see my map tab.
Hold on. Maybe I can bring mine up. Give me 1 sec.
Yeah.
Right here. Okay, they can't see your screen anymore. So if you see here, we have the harvest map tab. And for example, we see that there's only 3 natural tier 16s plus Vaal Temple. So here we have Cage, Promenade, and Reef. They're the only 3 natural tier 16s right now. So if we have a tier 16 map and we use Horizons on it, even though, like, for example, Toxic Sewers is a tier 16, we can never use a Horizon Orb to get it to that. This gets harder to see when you do have a bunch of maps in here, because, for example, a Toxic Sewer would appear here. But obviously, you can see here what all the natural ones are. I'll show them your screen again.
Or you can do what I did last league, and at the start of this league, my good friend Shider did a spreadsheet, which is in the chat right now. So it has all the maps of every single region in there, and then actually I should probably show it on
my
screen right now. So here's the list of all of the maps, and then the orange is with maps that are T16. That's for like just for our purposes. Oh, the access denied. I need to give you a new link. I can talk while I fix this.
No, it's so good. Are you learning a lot, chat?
Are you more confused, like I expected?
Well, I mean, we will upload this to YouTube too, so that people can re-watch it, because some of it might be confusing on the first turn round. More confused, yes. Brain is exploding. This shit's hard, yeah. I know. I always found like math very hard. I always like hated learning math. I would just sit there and be like, this is terrible. There's no purpose for math. It shouldn't exist.
Okay, it should be working now. But yeah, that was a way for us to figure out what we wanted to do with our atlas at the beginning of the league. And you can do that by going into standard. Like, for example, I'm currently in Soul Self and Hardcore. I can have this character ready with all watchstones socketed or without watchstones, and I can map that out. It takes anywhere from like half an hour to an hour to do, but it's very useful. Obviously, I can't do it because of the Awakener race, but yeah.
Yeah. So what about the Conquerors? Do they spawn in a certain order, or is it just random?
So yeah, the first one is always going to be Baron. Baron will always be the first Conqueror to spawn, regardless what corner you run the maps in. So I don't know for what reason, but I usually tend to get to the top left myself. Like, I just get the maps in there for some reason. And after that, it's random. So we're not going to go into the detail of what you can do if you play around that properly, but so the next 3 are going to be random, and after that, it is as long as the Conqueror can spawn, it is random in that region. I wonder if I have an example here where I'm hovering. I guess here. We go back to the somewhat the beginning where I was showing the watchtower. But yeah, there are ways to manipulate this a lot. Like, past the randomness of the 3 first spawns in the second, third, and the fourth, you can guarantee a Conqueror spawn, the Conqueror that you want to spawn in any region at any given time. But it requires you to actually plan it a bit. So I guess we could try an example here. So because I've only completed the first Baron, right? So now Baron can spawn with 1 watchstone anywhere else except the corners, because I haven't done anything there yet. So I can spawn Baron in turn 10 here, and that will exclude it from spawning anywhere else until I've either completed the entire encounter, so kill Baron with 1 watchstone, or I've opened the map to the Conqueror fight. At that point, I can actually move the influence into a different region if I want to. It won't give me new monsters, but I could then move, like, let's say I move the watchstone here to Glenna Cairns, and then I run a map of the correct tier. Then the Baron can spawn there again. Obviously, it doesn't give any the new influence mobs like that. But you can, if you pay attention to and plan a bit, you can block conquerors from spawning in regions that you don't want them to spawn.
And this is just an intro to Atlas 301 after you completed the Atlas 201 and the 101 module. A lot of people are asking with when it comes to red maps, should you always corrupt the map instantly on your first go around? And what are like some like how do you decide that?
Okay, there's a lot of things to come from here. For example, if let's say that you wanted to farm the one divination card, then doing that just to get the chance of higher quantity and pack size and stuff like that, it can be worth it. But whenever you're talking about progressing the Atlas, I would not corrupt a map ever before it's at least tier 10. And the reason for the T10 is if I complete a tier 10, like let's say that I corrupted a turns end tier 10 map, there's a 12.5% chance that it goes a +1, and the +1 follows the same rules as the 3-1 recipes. So it could give me a tier 11 map, a natural tier 11 map at that, as a rare corrupted, so I can immediately get the bonus from it. So
and what about on red maps though to get the bonus?
Yeah, well, that depends a lot. Do you feel like you absolutely need the bonus? If your map pool is really bad, I'd say probably. And when it comes to getting like doing the map, you don't actually have to alch the map and then corrupt it. You can like do transmute and alt it for like absolutely easy mods, then regal, pray the regal doesn't give you a bad mod, and then pray that the Vaal doesn't turn it into like an 8 mod freebie map or something like that.
Yeah.
But I would say generally, if you have no troubles with running some hard maps, even if it takes you 3 times as long to complete the map because the map gets harder, I would say do it. Especially on softcore, where as long as you can complete the map in 6 portals, do it, because the bonus is very valuable.
So there's one thing we haven't talked about at all yet, which is very important as well, and it's called sextants. Now, thankfully, we don't have to explain sextant blocking as much anymore, because that was like super giga brain, and a lot of people just spammed question mark the entire time we were explaining it every time. But yeah, we can talk about sextants.
Yeah, so sextants, I hope I have some in here. I don't know what's going on with this tab, like my Soul Self on Hardcore right now, because I don't have anything, so maybe you should show it on your end.
I'll do it.
It's weird shit on my migration. I mean, while you find them, I guess I can talk about it a bit. So sextants are currency items, just like any other, like transmutes, alteration, etc. But you use them on the watchstones that you obtain by killing the conquerors, and then the entire region that the watchstone is in is affected by the sextant modifier. And generally, you just use the sextants to get more monsters. There's stuff like more. You have like more like extra packs of gold monsters, fire monsters, lightning monsters, etc. like that. So you really want to use them. If nothing else, once you get past, like once you have like 20 watchstones, at that point you definitely should start using them just to get.
We generally, I would, okay, so it's a little bit different on Trade League and SSF. Trade League, especially if you're playing with more people, it's like very easy to justify juicing maps earlier and stuff. You're gonna get a lot more returns. But on Soul Self, you're very limited with the amount of things you can actually use to buff up your maps. So generally, you'll see a lot of people wait until at least tier 11s, usually like tier 13s to 16s, before they start like actually investing hard into their maps. So we do have 3 sextants here. So we have Simple, Prime, and Awaken sextants. There's a couple of mods that are exclusive to, for example, Prime and Awaken sextants that you can't get on the earlier ones. And obviously, they're like the Awaken ones are a lot more rare than the Simple ones. And then on top of that, the packs that we get from using the sextants, you can see that here we have 8 additional packs. So that's from the Awaken one. We have 6 additional packs from the Prime and 4 additional packs from the Simple one. So, you know, you will notice like quite a lot of difference there. I did do a quick example of this before, but the last time I opened a beach map, just a white beach with no pack size, that had 460 monsters in it. I put in 4 yellow sextants, so the prime ones. So 4 prime sextants, 6 additional packs, and that put it to, I think it was like 794. So like 300 additional monsters, or almost doubling it just by those sextants. And that was also a white map with no pack size. And then obviously everything here fuels into each other, where like the pack size is going to be better. Any scarabs, which we can talk about later, that you put on is going to be more efficient. And things like that. And maybe Karv can give some examples of what you're looking for on Sextants and what are all the good mods.
I don't have the list at me right now, but generally, if the Sextant says that it adds monsters, it's good.
Except physical.
I was about to say there's one exception to that, and that's physical. If you're playing a build that can't bypass the bubbles, I don't remember what the name. Yeah, proximity shield. Then that is a very bad mod, because they usually spawn in high packs and there's a lot of proximity, so you can't kill the monsters with a lot of builds.
And I can actually cause like huge lag spikes. I actually died, not because the monsters was dangerous, but because the proximity shields froze my client and I crashed and they killed me while I was offline.
Yep. There's a lot of really good sextant combinations. I don't remember now exactly, but there's a sextant that makes unique monsters drop corrupted items. I believe it's only for the 2 rarer ones, so Prime and Awakened. And a lot of people want corrupting blood jewels, especially early in the league. So if you get that sextant, you can then combine it with the sextant that adds exiles, and the exiles drop jewels, and now every single jewel they drop is corrupted, and you can add even more exiles to the map, usually with the map device mod. There's like, for example, currently in the league there is a infused Nemesis that was added. I think it added like 12
infused
or something.
Anarchy, yeah.
Yeah, Anarchy. Yeah. It adds like a crazy amount of
12 rogue exiles.
Yep.
These we don't have in Heist, most likely.
In the China race, I believe I got I think I got like a 150 corrupted jewels in 3 maps or something like that.
Also because really good if you're looking for corrupted jewels like Fevered Mind and stuff like that.
Yeah, and Mind's Reservation and stuff like that. That is a very powerful combo. Another really good is there's 2 different, well, there's I think there's like 3 or 4 different Strongbox ones. And then you can combine those with prophecies, which we haven't talked about, but that's like more on the juicing. But if you know these combinations, you can get a crazy amount of strong boxes, and then you can, well, if you get also the corrupting mod, like the strong boxes are corrupted, that also can give you a bunch of corrupted jewels and whatnot when you get the, I don't remember the name of the strongbox, jeweler strongbox, I think.
Yeah, I can actually show the most powerful sextant combo, which is Nemesis monsters drop additional currency items. I actually have a video explaining that. But this is like peak performance and why you should look a little bit into using sextants and optimizing them. So if you ever get the sextant that is Nemesis monsters drop 3 additional currency items, that is basically hitting jackpot. I'd say it's very likely that with investment you'll drop 1 Exalted Orb. I think the most Exalted Orbs I've dropped in one map, I can't remember, but it's like 4 or 5 pure Exalted Orbs in one map. And for what I'm about to show you, I actually keep every map. Let's see, there. I have a tab every league that I make called Nemesis Beyond. So every time I get the map, every time I get the roll, slaying enemies close together has a 13% chance to attract monsters from beyond. and rare monsters have Nemesis. When I get those two on the same map, I never run that for any reason. I put that in a separate tab because they are pretty hard to roll naturally. And the reason you want them naturally is quite often we have Beyond on the map device. And then you can basically force what we call double Beyond. This is actually just a single Beyond map that I'm showing off here. So you could actually get a large amount more. But you can see just because we've got Sextants, we've got Scarabs, every single rare monster that spawns is a Nemesis monster. So every single Nemesis monster drops 3 additional currency items. Now, in this example, I didn't actually get a single Exalted Orb, but like I said, this can be really good on Softcore Trade League too, because the most I've ever had in one map is 5 pure Exalted Orbs, and I'm sure there's some scenarios where people have had like up to like 10 or 12 in one single map. So this is actually something that isn't like that you wouldn't like require a regular large investment. This is just using like the Awakened Sextants. And then when you do hit that, the Nemesis currency drops 3 additional. That's when you actually pour investment into a map. Some other good things to get the combo with this would be you can actually get a Sextant that helps you get more Beyond monsters. I don't think I have one to show, but it's something like monsters have a 3% or 5% chance to drop a Beyond portal, just giving you more monsters. Then there's one that have what are the blue monsters called again? Harbinger. Harbinger monsters drop 3 additional currency items and things like that. Is there anything else that's really good with this combo? Do you remember?
You covered a lot. There might be something that we're missing, but in general, if you get that Sextant mod, and you don't have those maps, take the Sextant out of your Atlas and socket it into the stash that is on the left side, so that you don't accidentally use those.
Yeah, they're very, very worth the investment, and you're always going to get a sick return, even if you don't do a crazy investment into it. And as far as Scarab... Oh, yeah, so this is actually where Alva comes massively in handy. She's not always like the most popular master, but she is the master that adds like the most amount of monsters to the map. So whenever you're looking for like influence bases, like say you're about to spawn a hunter, you're about to spawn a warlord, you usually run Alva. And also when you're doing this, you can see that I'm running inside of Alva now, and just look at the insane amount of monsters that are spawning. And we'll show, it'll be showing in a second here just how much currency is dropping.
Basically, what we're trying to get here is use your Sextants instead of selling them. And if you get something good that looks good, and you don't know, ask someone who knows. Like, go to some streamer and ask if this Sextant's like, can you do something crazy about this?
Yeah.
They usually be able to help with that.
So it is very, very much worth your investment. And I would say like there's never a good reason to sell Sextants. There's a reason people buy them even at crazy prices.
When you're combining everything properly, Sextants are always basically worth it, even if they're super expensive.
Hunted Traders is worth mentioning. It's not particularly good with the Nemesis currency Sextants. They don't have that many rare monsters. It's just always a very, very good mod in general to run. And obviously, like it does like benefit from the rest of the investment too. Hunted Traders is basically monsters that'll fight against other monsters, and they just drop a boatload of stuff. Another thing you can also see that I'm using in this video is I have the Plague of Rats Prophecy. Same with like the Frog Prophecies. They add a bunch of rare monsters. And that's all you're really looking to do, is to add the most amount of rare monsters that you possibly can. I've seen somebody...
normal and blue monsters as well. But he's talking about specifically for the Nemesis Sextant mod now.
It's actually really funny. I can't remember who has this video, but I did see somebody once did the what's the Sextant that like raises a pack as a rare monster, and you can proc it several times during the map.
Oh, I don't remember. But there's actually better profit used in the Plague of Rats in this, and that I'm
Tempest?
pretty sure the Tempest is probably better. And also the Strongbox Monster's Treasure is insane.
Yeah, Monster's Treasure can be very good.
You can roll every single Strongbox for +3 rare monsters.
Yeah.
and then they also despawn a lot of beyond boxes.
That also takes a very long time to actually bother
Yeah,
rolling the
it
storm
is.
boxes
It is
and
very
stuff.
hard to proc because not every prophecy procs immediately.
Yeah, and the reason Tempest is good is that it adds additional quantity to the map.
Speaking of quantity, if your build can handle a lot of map mods, let's say that you don't have to worry about reflect, running maps unID'd is pretty useful as well.
Yeah,
Even
and there's the
without the
Sextant that
unID'd
helps
sections.
with that.
Yeah, but even without that, for example, when I'm playing any Contagion or Chaosling or whatever at the start of the league, I just put the maps that drop as unID'd straight into the device as unID'd.
Yeah.
For the extra, is it 20 or 30% quantity? I don't remember.
30, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot of extra quantity.
And you can see here that I actually have 5 slots in my map device, and you might be wondering like, what the fuck? I only have 4. And the reason that I have 5 slots in mine is you have to do the Legion emblems. Once you do a 4-way with the Legion emblems, so like the Templar, Karui, Vaal, and Eternal Empire, for example, once you do a 4-way, it'll spawn a fairly dangerous emblem. And we can just show like what the area looks like real quick with these two. But yeah, you would need 4. And then once you finish doing that, then you will have like a 5-way. So you just go in here, and as a quick TLDR, you like spawn it in the middle, you kill the bosses, and then run back once you've killed them, and it'll keep resetting the arena. Obviously, the bosses have like a cooldown for being able to respawn. But yeah. So it has to be 4 at the same time. You can't do 2 with 2. And then that'll unlock the 5-way.
Is there anything, some like very basic stuff that we haven't really talked about yet?
Scarabs.
Yeah, so Scarabs are basically, well, yeah. Scarabs are, the reason why you want to do the 4-way Legion emblem is so you can get 1 extra slot so that you can put more Scarabs and fragment, like sacrifice fragments and whatnot into your map devices.
Yeah, so Scarabs just add a shit ton of density. There's a lot of good ones. I'd say most of them are good for different uses. Like obviously Breach, 3 additional Breaches, that's a shit ton of more monsters. You get like 5 additional Harbingers. Elder or Shaper, especially Elder, adds just a boatload, probably like 400 or 500 more monsters to the map. Like it's an insane amount. And something that combos really, really well with Sextants is the Gilded Legion Scarab. There is a Sextant that adds 1 additional Legion. Quite often we have a Legion on the map device, and they can also spawn at least 1 naturally, plus 1 from the Gilded Legion. So best case scenario, you have 4 Legions in 1 map, and each of these Legions will have at least 2 Warhordes, and they'll have 2 Generals as well. So you can get up to like 150 Splinters per map. And you get these Scarabs by interacting with, well, sometimes they'll just drop randomly from some league mechanics. But the way you can farm them is from Jun, with having different things here on intervention. So for example, Varishi would be the Shaper Scarab, Rin would be the Cartography Scarab, Haku is Ambush, and you would have to watch like a full guide on intervention, or sorry, on Betrayal. But yeah, anything on intervention basically. Vegan on Legion, or sorry, Vegan on intervention is the Legion one. And that is pretty difficult to understand.
Yeah, that's a bit of out of scope of the this class.
I'll show your screen again.
Yeah, so actually somebody pointed out on chat that we didn't, I guess we kind of skipped a lot on the very, 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 very basics. So I kind of want to go tiny bit back there. You remember you asked about the ant lines? Yeah. So the other really important thing about that is not only the adjacency boss bonus extra drop, which is, remember, it's an extra, so it's the boss can also drop other maps on top of that. It's just an extra chance for that specific thing. And the other thing here is when you run a map, let's say that we're running a scriptorium. We don't need to run a T14 scriptorium for this. We could be running a T5 scriptorium. So the graveyard isn't completed yet. As you can see, it's like grayed out like that. So the ways to get this map. So we could potentially do the 3-1 if there is no native T6. I don't think there is a native T6 here. So that's one way. But the most common way you'll get the maps is by just running a map that is adjacent to it. So by running any of the map that has the lines connecting the graveyard, has a much higher chance of getting the graveyard. So when a map is okay, so I guess I would actually. So let's say we are running the scriptorium. A tier 6 map decides to drop. Let's just assume that every map in every other region is not a tier 6 for this example. We have a tier 6 wasteland, we have a tier 6 pier, we have a tier 6 mudgeyser completed. So we have, and these are T7. So we have 3 different T6 that are completed, and then we have the graveyard. Now, because the graveyard is not completed, it has twice the chance to drop over any other map that is completed in that region, or like in that tier. So we have a total of 4 maps that can drop, where 1 map has double the chance to drop. So if we think about the basket again, so we have 4 maps, each of them originally has 1 chance, right? So like 1 ticket, so that's 1 in 4. But now, because of the graveyard is not completed yet, it's gonna be 2 out of 5, because we add 1 ticket to the graveyard, which also increases the total from 4 to 5, and then the others just have 1 in 5 chance to drop. And because we're running Scriptorium, when we kill the map boss, if the boss bonus drop, which has to be an adjacent, decides that it gives a tier 6, it can only give a pier or graveyard, and then graveyard has twice the chance. So this is 2 out of 3 compared to 1 in 3 chance to drop.
Nice.
It could also drop a tropical island though, because it's also adjacent. But
and do you remember that you can't like drop a +2 that you haven't completed? So the scriptorium there can't drop the, what's the one below Mudgeyser?
Mesa.
Yeah. So
it cannot drop this because it's not connected.
Yeah.
It could drop a waste pool because and lighthouse, because they are completed tier 7s. So they are in the tier 7 map pool that can drop, but Mesa isn't because it's not completed and it's not adjacent to the map that we're running.
Yep.
The adjacent rules also, they go from region to region as well. So by running this is where it can get kind of spicy if you start playing around with some of the rules that we've talked about. I guess I can very quickly mention about that. This is probably not for the junior class, but we can go there for a second. And I use this little trick a lot, especially at the start of the leagues. So because the boss bonus drop only drops adjacent maps. Remember, the extra added bonus drop, which has a base chance of like 1 in 3, only drops adjacent maps. Let's say that we are running a tier 14 dig map. Now, let's say that we didn't have these watchstones in here. We could get from the adjacent boss bonus drop, because it's adjacent to 3 different maps. It can give us Belfry, Volcano, or Shipyard. Now, Shipyard is on tier 14. It's kind of cool. But what we can do, you can, if nothing else, you can do this just for the moment that you kill the map boss. You can clear the entire map with having it like this, and then you can rip off like some watchstones from elsewhere just to do this. So we are increasing all of the tiers of the maps that are connected to our dig map, and because the dig that we are running, remember it was a tier 14, the map boss can drop a +2. So if the boss bonus, which is like 1 in 3 chance on a base, for us it would actually be like 35 or something, 36% chance to happen, it has to drop a tier 16 Shipyard, Volcano, or Belfry. So you can guarantee +2s from boss bonus drops with this one simple trick.
That's super smart. I didn't actually know about that one. I'm impressed.
That's how I got my first T14s, usually for the 4 watchstone conqueror spawns. And now I just lost 11k Pepe hands.
Grinding Games hates him.
I'm expecting pity subs when I lose the 11k because I just gave out the strat.
That's actually big brain. Somebody asked, does that connected map chance apply only to connected uncompleted maps or also to already completed maps?
Sorry, what chance?
Does the hold on. Does the connected map chance apply only to connected maps that are uncompleted or also to already completed ones?
Okay, so there's two different things here. Okay, I need to go to back to the other guy. So there's two different. There's the adjacent boss bonus drop. So that's only that is the extra. That is the extra thing. So let's say that we're running the scriptorium. So that only affects the adjacent maps, but the uncompleted can then double that. So the adjacent maps, so in the case of scriptorium, we have the 3 maps that are adjacent to it. So you can like double up it, right? So that's why if you run the scriptorium, you're much more likely to get the graveyard because it's uncompleted compared to the peer because it's already completed.
I think you should probably re-explain the tier 14 to force tier 16 thing again.
Oh, okay. Do you need that much help, Sis?
No, not me. I got it.
Okay, so as mentioned earlier in the class, map bosses can drop +2 tiers of maps that you're running, while like rare monsters and like non-boss unique monsters can drop +1, and also magic monsters, and then normal monsters can drop like a white. So when you kill the map boss, there is this thing. If you look at your awakening level, the second highest line on the list of bonuses, so there's a unique map boss has life, like more life, and then there's a chance for an additional connected map to drop from unique map boss. So that is what I refer to as the boss bonus drop, because it has nothing to do with like the normal drop rates. So by increasing your awakening level, you can increase the chance. So we get a flat 2% extra chance. But as a base value, it's like 33% chance to happen, give or take. It's like 32, 35. It's really hard to get like an exact value. So when you kill the map boss, we can get all the way to a +2 map from that bonus drop. So if we make sure that every single adjacent map to the map that we're running is +2 to the map that we're running, it has to be that. So we can also use an example of T12 dig. So we can run a T12 dig, right? We open the map as a T12, like this, just fine. We run the map. We don't have to put the watchstones immediately, but we can then, before we kill the map boss, you can also do this immediately in hopes of getting +1s. So from the T12 dig to get like T13 volcanoes, for example. But by putting watchstones in to increase the level or like tier of the map that is connected, you can then make it so that when the additional connected map drop has to be +2. So the T12 to T14 is a bad example because Volcano is T13 now, but we can just make it into a T16. So now Volcano can't drop from our T12 map, but we can get T14 Shipyard, and as you can see, Belfry right now is T12, but if we put one more Watchstone in there, now Belfry is also 14. So if the additional connected map drop happens, it can only be T14 Shipyard or T14 Belfry, because we can't drop Volcano, and the dig isn't adjacent with itself for the purpose of the drop.
So the reason why this is so strong is because when you do have a tier 14 dig, you're just abusing the fact that it has to drop a connected map, and you can force every connected map to be tier 16. So you're forcing the game to give you a tier 16 guaranteed without giving it a choice to roll lower tiers.
Yeah, I think the best example to really like simple example here is, let's say that we open a T8. We have a 2 watchstone conqueror influence here, right? So we put a tier 8 lookout. Or let's say that we put the T9 Wharf map in. And let's say that it's our last map. So after we complete the Wharf, we actually have to fight the Conqueror already, right? So there really isn't a good reason for us to keep it 2 watchstones. So instead, we can add 1 watchstone. So pay attention to connected maps. It's a T10 Museum, T9 Relic Chambers, and then T8 Lookout. And now we're still in the T9 Wharf map, but now the connected maps are 11, 11, and 10. So now if the adjacent connected extra like a drop happens, it has to be at least tier 10. And nicely, the T10 is high enough for the next amount of like the tier, like a 3 watchstone spot. This is probably the simplest example I can think of for this.
What do you think what else we should cover for the Atlas? Like, obviously, we could talk for hours about this, but...
Yep.
Yep.
There's, I mean, you did talk about Masters already.
Yeah, I have a separate episode covering like why all the different leagues are good, like Bestiary and stuff. I think that's like pretty much.
Oh, how to get Vaal Temple? That's a good question.
Sure, and when to use chisels.
Yeah. Okay. So Vaal Temple, this pesky map is very annoying because you actually need to complete it to be able to start getting the favorite system that we talked about earlier. So the Vaal Temple is obtained. There's a divination card for Vaal Temple. But the easiest or like the most common way to get it is by corrupting tier 15 maps. And you can get it by corrupting any tier 15 map. It doesn't matter if it's from the same region anymore, gladly, because they fixed that bug. But yeah, so that way. And then you can also get it as a Zana mission. Zana can't tell you the map, but when you do a tier 15 or 14 or 16 Zana missions in the map, when Zana has the list of maps, it can include a Vaal Temple that you can complete. Sometimes magic one for a really easy completion as well.
Yeah. And what about sextanting your maps?
You mean chiseling?
Chiseling.
Yeah. So this again depends. Let's say that if you're farming a specific divination card, let's say that you're farming residence at the start of the league for the 6-link card, I would actually recommend just always chiseling that and always putting all the sextants immediately. If you're farming something specific early, do everything you can to get out of that phase as fast as possible. So that if we exclude those cases, so just for the sake of map sustain, I personally, in a normal league, would start chiseling around T13, and I don't go 20 chisels. Maybe just using a few chisels to get extra quantity. But this varies a lot, and this is in solo self. And if you're in trade league and chisels are cheap, you can definitely start doing it earlier. But I will always until I have hundreds of maps. Like even now, I would probably, with like 47 T16s, I would still probably chisel them if I had the chisels.
Yep.
And right now, I would definitely not chisel 15s anymore. But early, when you're in the progression in the Atlas, I would say maybe from around T12, 13. But you don't have to dump all of your chisels immediately. You can even do so that you just chisel the maps when you use sextants to like double dip on the effects.
And when Karv said 20 chisels, he means 4, because you always chisel while the map is white, just to make sure nobody's chiseling while it's rare or blue.
Yeah, I was thinking 20 quality, my bad. But I would not recommend chiseling maps unless you also sextant them early on.
Mm-hmm. True.
Because you wanna double dip on the extra monsters that the sextants give with the quantity of items dropped from the chisel.
Awesome. I think that is pretty much everything covered then, as like an intro for Atlas 101. Actually, more like 201. It's like not
It's
like
both. I think it's kind of both. At
yeah.
this point.
So I think we will end class here. Let's see. Let me switch back cameras. And there. Let's end class here. And Karv, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge with us. How fast do you think Awakener is going to be killed in the upcoming race?
Oh, when I made a video talking about like the seeing the thread. My original guess was 23 hours, but I think after done some practice and hearing from others that it's gonna be somebody's gonna get lucky with map drops and it's gonna be 21 hours.
See, I feel like people always do better in the practice than on the actual league start. People always go slower.
It's hard to say because we don't know patch notes, but let's assume that no other major nerfs to the few builds that we had from Manifesto. I'd say it's 20 hours if somebody gets really lucky with maps.
What build do you think's gonna do it? ED?
I think it's ED still, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I'd say ED even more now, actually.
Yeah. So let's get a big thank you to Karvarousku in chat, and thank you chat for joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed this session. Karv, where can we find more of you?
Assuming that the name like below here is actually typed correctly, just put twitch.tv and then slash before that, and it should work. Or just put that name into Google, I guess, and it will probably get you there.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Path of Exile University. This is kind of the last session that we're doing, so we're ending with the biggest 5-head. And then after this, I'm just going to continue my league start simulation all the way until patch notes drop. Thank you for joining us. Try to die.
Thanks for having me.
Less than we do. Wave at the camera, Karv.